That's enough, Flutter said sternly. Flutterbat, Flutterdrake, Fluttergriff, and Flutter dove down into the Scootaloo army and plowed through them, sending orange fillies flying through the air left and right. The detachments weren't hindered at all by the filly fighters, speeding every possible direction and taking out dozens with every second. Leave them alone, I shouted, chains flying from my body lightning quick. They wrapped up the detachments, only to be slashed apart by the concept's killing rods a moment later. Don't be a hypocrite, Flutter snarled, flying straight at me. They're using violence against us and that's okay, but we can't use violence against them to stop them from hurting themselves with all this fighting? Hypocrite? Hearing that voice saying that word had a funny effect on me. It was like standing in an endless echo chamber. Hypocrite. 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 I laugh, small and sad, fending off Flutter with a wry smile. Auntie Madoka, why are you laughing? You're letting fools be the concept's pawns! Her voice was like sugar water squeezed through clenched fangs. It's just being with you, Nicey. I might as well be looking into a funhouse mirror. In her confusion, Flutter slowed her attack slightly. Auntie, I don't know what you mean, she said. I stopped laughing. I mean to say, here I am, a villain who desperately wishes she was a hero. And here you are, the hero of your mother's story, desperately wishing you were a villain. Flutter froze up for a second, like an outed criminal, but she was still able to dodge a kick from me. Me? Auntie, a villain? That's the last thing I want. I promise, I'm being better than my nature, I swear. Come on now, Nice. I was the one who taught you to be loyal to us and betray everyone else. Those 900 years your mom spent ruling half the planet until Auntie Eclipse told you we had to reset everything or we wouldn't be able to keep global discord under control? Those 900 years we spent teaching you to hate a father who died for you given a half a chance? Who wanted to turn himself in? How his heart shattered when you told him Fluttercurl is dead and stabbed him in the leg, as he begged you to realize you and your mom were being lied to? Guess what? He was telling the truth. Rainbow Dash, that is enough! Fluttershy's voice boomed like angry thunder. I caught the lightning bolt that struck from above and swung it around to face Fluttercurl. Auntie, you've gone mad! You'd never say Evil Discord's lies were true if you were yourself. You're nuts! You're unwell in the head, she finished in kinder, more sensitive and Fluttershy-approved tones. Not anymore. The elements saw that, which means I can appreciate all the garbage I did to innocent ponies after Eclipse cut out pieces of my soul. Auntie Madoka, how can you talk about Auntie Eclipse like that? Flutter gasped. Oh, I've got a hell of a lot more to say when we're done here. The blow to the head I took from her made my head spin, but she didn't press her advantage. Did that break the evil mind control the gods' minions have you under, Auntie? She asked. We aren't brainwashed, Flutter I sighed. Not anymore. All we really did was trade one brainwashing lunatic for another. Stop talking about Auntie Eclipse like that! Don't listen to them, dear. They're just sick right now. Just forget everything they told you. Remember the trick Auntie Eclipse showed you for whenever Auntie Mirror made you cry. Just take a deep breath and toss it out the window. Forget you ever heard it. Okay, thanks, Mommy. She grinned. There, all forgotten. I don't remember a thing. I facelift. Fluttercurl took the chance to punch a tooth out. I formed a lightning scythe and slashed at her with it a few times, each one blocked by her black staff. She dodged beneath it and rapid-fire kicked me in the stomach before swinging at my wings, knocking me to the ground below. That savage beast still inside you, Fluttercurl. You never tamed it. You just caged it. No wonder it's so savage when you're forced to let it out. I sighed, feeling strangely calm and serene, looking up at her emotionlessly as the Scootaloos helped me up. Good girls. I can't hear you, Auntie! Flutter snapped a blood-curdling snarl. All that time we spent helping your mom fix you, saying it was for your own good? I got my revenge on my Fluttercurl through you since she was in oblivion, even despite my Rarity and Pinkie Pie's wishes. Until Nightmare Whisper introduced you to us all as Flutter you were just a ragdoll I could beat up without an ounce of guilt. Those monsters' evil magic is making you say that! You did it all to help me! You'd never hurt me! You'd never hurt me! You've never hurt me! Flutter screams, not even bothering to attack now. Mom's done so much to rehabilitate me! Yet you're still scratching at the bit to hurt some pony. And I can't even blame you for it, not when I helped put the muzzle on. Flutter was shaking her head in fierce denial, and yet the beginnings of a guilty smile were keeping up on her face. It was like I'd uncorked a champagne bottle right under an alcoholic's nose. The sticker on her flank curled up and fluttered to the ground. I know! I'm failed! I'm evil born from evil! I'm filth born from filth! Mommy tells me I'm not so I'll feel better, but I know she's lying! I'm a monster who stole my mother's body from her and tortured thousands of ponies for mine and my father's sick games! A coward who used empty words when those she couldn't bully fought back to try and make them feel guilty for giving me my due! But Mommy loves me even if I'm an ugly, wretched piece of sewage! That's what makes her the best mom in the world! And you're the worst guardian in the world for making all those innocent Scoodleys fight against their will. They're just foals! You wanna know the truth, little Flutter? Mira's royal counterlap voice boomed across the battlefield. These fillies are more grown up than you. They're your opposites. They're heroes in the bodies of foals. You're still a filly in the body of a mare. Pinkie Pie startled, looking up at us with eyes shrunk to pinpricks. Oh, Celestia, please don't tell me her Nightmare Grandflute insanity's back. We can't... Is she crying? She blasted bullhorns in all directions to give herself room. Fluttershy, I understand why you're doing this. Why you have to do this. Why you're too scared to do anything else. But Nicey, she won't... Oh, pounds, pumpkin, fuse box, bomb pie, powder cake, firecracker, grenade pie, little hex, sharp fuse, hatchet and latchet, spring dew, morning light, bubbles, storming night, applesauce. Mommy's sorry. Mommy's sorry. She made you all hate laughing. Mommy wishes she could go to Nowhere Land and tell you how sorry she is. When she became Nightmare Grandflute, she couldn't be sad. She couldn't be unhappy. Everything was just a big game. Even you. Mommy is so sorry. She forgot you as Grandflute. At least as Angry Pie, she loved you. She's sorry. Mommy wishes she could fix it all and bring you all back here and make it all better with a kiss and a hug. Mommy really, truly wishes. Pinkie Pie, Mira sighed. We can't help them right now, but we've got a lot of foals here who do need help. Pinkie Pie wiped her tears away and nodded, hitting a giant star spider construct in the face of the cream pie without even looking at it. All right, Raspberry whispered sadly. I think I finally get why concepts are allowed to feel remorse, but not regret. Raspberry and Grandflute wanted to help me in the suits with Flutter Knights looming over us, but the detachments were so close to the horde of fillies that they couldn't get a shot in without risking hurting any of the Scoodaloos. Spike was still stuck in a stalemate with the huge Nightmare Whisper. His teleport fire breath countered her despair breath, if only just. Whisper's voice echoed to the fillies as Nice's detachments continued to knock them down. Please, just stop this fighting and go back to the orphanage, back to bed. This will all have just been a bad dream. We'll have our milk and cookies. But the Scoodaloos, bless them all, were having none of it. No, not happening. Forget it. Sweetie needs me. Go away. I'm never going back there. I'm not leaving Rainbow Dash, so go buck your language, little filly. Leave her alone. It wasn't me who'd spoken that time. It was Mare. She tried to grapple with Flutter when she pinned her Scootaloo down, leaving an impression in the ground. Flutter responded by slamming Mare across the face with her rod, breaking Mare's glasses and possibly her jaw as she fell down. Stop it, you bully! Meanwhile, Fluttergriff found Bonbon and Lyra had decided to stop standing around being scared and take action against her, ganging up on her suddenly, and happily responded by clawing them. Eternity screamed wildly as she kicked Flutterdrake in the gut, leaving an imprint. The small dragon retorted with fire breath before her Scootaloo kicked her jaw closed. Stop! What are you doing? Stop! Just stop! Stop! My family is helping stop the fighting! Stop! Whisper screamed at the Ponyville ponies. Don't worry, Rainbow Dash. We're not out of surprises yet, Starlight said, helping me up, oddly pleased as she blocked another hit from Flutter Knights. Now that you've rejected this world, Nightmare Whisper's grip on this pocket reality is loosening. And now every pony is properly awake and ready to accept the truth. Yes, yes, yes! Razaru cheered, still charging up her spellbook for something. And because you've unconsciously weakened all the barriers and security measures that Nightmare Whisper doesn't directly control, I can call in extra party guests to help. Starlight flew next to Razaru, drew her sword, and the pages of Razaru's spellbook flipped like crazy, covering Starlight's sword in stardust. Then Starlight flew as fast as she could away from the fighting. Huh? She flew right over Sweet Apple Acres and dove down. Eyes that were better than a hawk saw her touch down in front of the Cutie Mark Crusaders clubhouse. She kicked her sword right into the base of the tree, and suddenly I was able to tell there had been a hole in that part of the tree this entire time that went way further inside than it should have. Sorry about this, girls. She twisted her sword. The tree and the ground and the surrounding air around them all crackled. Like a hoof pressed upon thin ice, the cracks spread rapidly in spiderweb pattern. Then everything that was cracking gave up the ghost and shattered, revealing a twisted slush of colors covered by rusty chains. The chains shattered, and the slush dissipated like fog, showing a sea of stars. There was no sudden gravitational pull as everything was blown outside into a vacuum. The exit was simply there, offering itself. But like most exits, it was also an entrance. Bonbon's baking cookies, girls! Hurry up on over! Starlight shouted. Clubhouse wasn't part of any of the puppets' routines from what little we were able to glean from the outside, Razaru explained, encasing some of the Scoodaloos who'd been injured the worst in magical bubbles, then floating them over to Applejack. She continued explaining to me while applying healing magic to the wounded Scoodaloos, as though determined to make up for all their deception and tight-lipped secrecy in one straight go. But I recognized the look in her eyes every time she healed another Scootaloo. She wasn't doing this out of obligation or duty. She was doing this because Scootaloo was her friend. This was loyalty. We put a perception filter in place to keep real ponies from noticing one of the crannies had a cover on it. We couldn't risk being discovered until Nightmare Whisper lost control, or she'd just beef up security and we'd be out of scene options. So picking the spot we'd sneak in and set up as the exit was a real pain, Starlight added, casually slinging her sword through a falcon on her way back here. Are you girls gonna help, or are you just gonna talk the bad guys to death? Mira snarked. Jib Jazz getting distracted from the action! Rainbow Dash wanted a full explanation, didn't you? Razaru asked. I sighed as I headbutted Flutterdrake. Ouch. Even as a nightmare wearing a helmet, not bright to headbutt a dragon. So where's that surprise already? Flutternice came at Starlight from behind and jabbed at her machine gun quick, not noticing the crackling coming from the tree. Starlight laughed a little as she danced away from each jab. Just a few more moments. Whisper's emergency temporal shift still dodges away from concepts and thestrals, but there's still a few friends up my sleeve. And just like that, the tree blew apart, sending 4 Blackwing and Earth Pony mares shooting into the sky like lightning. All of them had sword hilts like Starlight's. An aqua mare with an orange mane and bright yellow eyes, a tan mare with a patchy pink mane and yellow eyes, a lavender mare with a long pink mane and eyes the color of clover blossoms, and a magenta mare with a tumbled blue mane and green eyes, whose name I can't really work in here. Bright Eyes, Patch, Clover, Melody! Starlight greeted each of them, likely to save time with introductions. Glad you could make it. Patch dove 4 hooves at once straight into Flutterdrake, knocking her into the sky. I hope you don't mind us dropping in, said Clover. She moved with such grace, it was like the battle was a ballet, only barely tapping Fluttergriff with her sword and avoiding her claw splashes. It was actually adorable. Melody quipped, Please don't think we're stealing the spotlight. She was striking hard and fast with the Flutterbat, making more noise with her strikes than a rock concert. Penrith's eyes were drawn to her. Don't ask me why. Bright Eyes commented as she kept Flutter and the other detachments from attacking as a group. But I do believe you won't mind concentrating on helping my twice-removed self, rather than calming down her poor fool having a tantrum. This is our chance to be awesome too, Patch cheered. Whisper's voice exclaimed, Since when are you all Reapers? Melody smirked. Oh, we're not sworn in, more like deputized. Clover said, We're just messengers. Moral eyes. No pony would see me complaining. At least they were being pleasant. Now with the detachments off their backs, the Scootaloo Alliance army of awesome was back to ripping the constructs apart and smashing open the puppets. And more of the Ponyville ponies were fighting back now too. Starlight, meanwhile, was dueling Flutternice single-hoofedly, while Banner Out was grappling against Nightmare Whisper. Coming, big guy! Energy is energy, and even a Nightmare has limits to theirs. Whisper was having to pour more and more of hers into her constructs just to keep Scootaloo's army from overwhelming her. Watching Starlight and her buddies fight, it was like us. Me, Twilight, and the other Nightmares. These girls weren't just teammates, they were friends. They could trust each other, could always count on each other. It lifted my spirits to a high place just to see it from afar. Play, Ace! Cried Melody, and the base of her claymore reformed into a guitar. She played a chord and sent out a wall of sound that had Flutterbat covering her ears and screaming. Burn, buddy! Patch's sword ignited with a blue flame, barely tickling her where it licked her hooves. When it made contact with Flutterdrake's concept-killing rod, the flames caused it to freeze over. What? That's absurd! Flutterdrake exclaimed, throwing her weapon aside to clash with her claws instead. I know! I wanted a flaming sword, but Bright Eyes said dragons were immune, so I compromised, Patch said, falling back. Every spot in the detachment she managed to touch with her weapon frosted over. Shine, Slipknot! Starlight's sword turned into a huge jagged scythe, deftly keeping Fluttergriff away with its range and sweeping ability. Flutter cheated and used the Utter Flutter all by herself. Bright Eyes called, Flutter Lance! And her sword broke apart into hundreds of metallic butterflies, countering the Utter Flutter. You wouldn't dare hurt your mother's spiritual precursor. Flutter halted. Granny? Shock reveals in the midst of battle left the enemy more disoriented than a poetry slam from Discord. Too bad it was old hat for us. If you're me, then you should know I'm doing this! Fluttershy's voice shouted as Longma constructs attacked Bright Eyes from front and back. I do, and that's why I volunteered to help stop you, Bright Eyes shouted. Bright Eyes' sword reformed in an eye blink. She slashed, the Longma blocked. Bright Eyes' sword flew apart just as they would have clashed, then reformed into a sword once it was past the Longma's claws, scoring an impossible strike that cut it in half. She stabbed backwards at a Longma coming at her from behind, only for her sword to turn into butterflies again and reform pointing back into the second Longma. She wielded her blade with skill thanks to those gripping hooves of hers. I'd had to learn to do that with my own hooves. It was way too useful not to. Flutter got over herself and attacked again, only for Bright Eyes butterflies to latch onto her hooves and wings. Bad filly. Dance, Dandy! Right, Clover. Maybe her sword was a fancy rapier? A chain whip? I don't know, a dancing sword? Instead it split in 4 and attached itself to each of her hooves, like if ice skates were a weapon. Should have seen that coming. Fluttergriff halted, stared, then held a claw to her chest and burst out laughing, pointing at a blushing Clover. That is so lame! Are you gonna dance me to death? You have 0 reach with those, as if the attack name calling wasn't enough. Clover blushed more. Well, it's rude to ask for a friend's help without saying their name first. Fluttergriff looked between Clover and her sword with sour incredulity. Try living friends, lady. Even at my worst I didn't try making friends with knives. Lightning struck each of Clover's blades, but instead of electrocuting her, the lightning crackled inside the blades. "Now, Clover!" Razoroo shouted, having just cast a spell from the nearby spa's rooftop. With a fury like that of old Angry Pie, Clover, in under a second, cut apart Fluttergriff 8 ways from Sunday. Thank you. Anything to help my little sister." "What, Meadowlark? Is that you? But I'll explain later, Minty. Starlight, did you forget to mention this before?" Out of nowhere, a giant Ursa came in, roaring, facing Clover with thoughts of dinner in its eyes. A smiley-faced cannonball sent the construct Ursa crashing to the ground. "Go, Minty! Clover!" Gramflin cheered, wings spread wide and horn glowing from the library roof. "Pinkie Pie, it's so good to see you in reality," Clover called. "Yes, yes, yes! That's my line," Razoroo laughed. Pinkie's cheer was real. Not insane, just bubbly and pure. On the one hoof, this wasn't the first time she'd brought up Minty. Not by a long shot. I'd gotten the whole story out of Gramflin eventually. She'd grieved for Minty through time in a tangled knot of world lines. I'm not proud to admit, once I knew who Minty was, a part of me felt resentment in the back of my mind whenever my pink friend brought her up. As though Pinkie were a stepsister of mine, lamenting the death of her real sister. How was I supposed to make things better for Pinkie? How could any pony compete with a fallen friend's memory? If Pinkie had to choose again, who'd she save? We all know it wouldn't be the old me. But seeing Gramflin and Minty's other self's joyful reunion blasted those old resentments to dust. Pinkie had closure at last. That was what mattered. I know Pinkie will happily look forward to Clover's visits when this is over. We've served our time. Hey, I might too. I promised myself to ask Gramflin to put in a good word with Clover for me. I want to be friends too. "Scootaloos!" Razoroo shouted at the army. "Clear away to the clubhouse! Every pony who's a part of Ponyville, get to the Cutie Mark Crusaders treehouse at Sweet Apple Acres! It's the only way out of here! Those who know the way, help those who don't!" "Do what she says, Scoots!" I shouted. Razoroo used her spellbook to create several glowing arrows in the sky pointing the way towards freedom. I saw Bonbon helping up a bleeding Lyra. "Rainbow Dash and her friends, and me and my friends, we'll all make sure you get out safely!" shouted Clover. "We have friends on the other side waiting for you! You won't be hurt! You're all getting out of this alive!" All the while, Razoroo was zapping any puppets or constructs that got past the Scootaloo army and conjuring up extra signposts. And I saw Patch. Oi! She was swinging a cluster of puppet strings dangling from the sky, shouting "Tally-ho!" and swinging her sword like an idiot. Flutterdrake zipped past and cut the rope. Patch did a somersault and spread her wings, and blocked each of Flutterdrake's attacks as she tried to hit and run the substitute Reaper. An attack that would have gotten in was blocked by a wall of gold butterflies. Bright Eyes shouted as they landed on top of the sofa in Quill Store. "That's grandstanding, Patch. More focus!" "No offense, Bright Eyes, but I've got way more experience than you," Patch said, facing Bright Eyes with a hoof on her hip, while her other hoof furiously dueled Flutterdrake in a blur of sword slashes. She wasn't even looking. I don't know if she's nuts or just awesome. "If you think you're gonna trot out one of your adventure stories again, right in the middle of—" No, I promise." Patch waved her hooves defensively, ducking under Flutterdrake as she dived at the opening and got a face full of angry butterflies from Bright Eyes. Flutterbat screamed an array of sonic attacks at Mirrors, but Melody released a counter wave with her sword in a pretty voice. Flutterbat then dove at the healing Scootaloos, but was caught off guard when a reflection of pre-Discord Applejack punched the Bat Pony in the face. "You don't know it ain't polite to pick on those smaller than you? I bet your mom's ashamed." Nightmare Mirror didn't say it, but I knew her well enough to understand that her reflection was still her, which meant if either body got hurt, so would the other. Of course, Mirror wasn't so suicidally honest as to go blabbing that when Mister might have forgotten. Large bat constructs flew to aid Flutterbat, but Melody chipped in, cutting them apart and brawling with Flutterbat and her concept killer rod. Mirror fought bare-hoofed against her. Melody's movements were hard and fast. "You're pretty good. I guess Rarity is stronger than she looks, no matter her incarnation." "How did you—" "Has the truth, darlin'." Applejack's reflection bucked Flutterbat back into the air. "Don't tell Spike, please, Applejack." Wouldn't be right to turn down a friend's request. I agreed. Spike wouldn't want Rarity to see him like this, not when he's sane. Melody met the Bat Pony in the air. Flutterbat was using her tail like a fifth hoof to hold her staff, taking relentless stabs at Melody and countering her sonic attacks with her own. Melody flew in a circle around the detachments. Her sword returned to normal, but now there were a bunch of metal rods hovering around her. Flutterbat braced herself, probably expecting them to fly at her all at once. Instead, Melody began hitting them, each one giving off a vibration that only got louder and higher pitched with each strike. "What?" Flutterbat screamed. Glowing cracks appeared on her body. "Everything has a sympathetic harmony, including you," Melody said. "You are so immodest!" "I'm an entertainer. I can't afford to be modest." Flutterbat screeched and shattered. Patch laughed. "Ponies with tails, third and fourth generations fighting side by side. Too bad Firefly isn't here, or our friends would be wonking out." Bright Eyes snickered. "Who do you think is with Wind Whistler, ready to lead in an army of Paradise Ponies in case we fail?" "Well, too bad for Firefly, 'cause we're not gonna." The first of the mortals were finally reaching the exit, but little and not-so-little yellow and pink star spiders began whipping up the gap, and it had already started shrinking as the tree healed itself. "Oh, no you don't!" Butterflies versus spiders? Why not? Bright-Eyes butterflies flashed, but instead of becoming a sword again, they turned into one gigantic, glowing butterfly that squished the spiders. How dare you! The barrier continued to seal up. I dare because I care. And Bright-Eyes' giant monster butterfly wedged itself into the hole and spread its wings, forcing it to stay open, pushing back against Nightmare Whisper's will. I think because Fluttershy and Bright-Eyes had the same soul, the barrier thought that Whisper was giving the command to stay open, while at the same time telling it to close up, so the dang thing was stuck in a loop. Good for every pony. Sweetheart and Bonbon are gonna be sorry they missed this adventure, Patch cheered. They'll do their part for the living once they're outside the barrier. They're counting on us to do ours, Starlight said. Keepers saving lives. Will wonders never cease, Bright-Eyes hummed to herself. Lyra and Bonbon were the first mortals to reach the barrier. One of the falcon constructs dove in after them. Protect Teddy! I heard a voice echo on the other side. There was a loud banging noise and the construct went flying out, a shield with a big heart in the middle sticking out of the hole for a bit before going back inside. I kept zapping and blasting the giant Nightmare Whisper, but she absorbed everything I threw at her like a dry sponge. Patch jammed her sword into Flutterdrake's mouth just as she was about to breathe fire on the apparently unarmed Bright-Eyes. The dragon froze solid, and Patch shattered her. The dragon's body broke down into chaos magic. A small yellow light flew out of her and back into Fluttercruel. I can still defend myself, Patch, Bright-Eyes said, calling the last handful of butterflies to her side to form a knife. What, I can't take my openings when I see him? Every pony, focus on Flutter Nice, Starlight ordered, and the others all crowded around the filly I'd helped Fluttershy raise for countless aeons. All of you against me? That's not fair, Flutter Nice said. This is a battle, not a fencing match, Melody shouted back. From where she was down, Flutter gave out a gasp, and a similar light flew out of her body, which dissolved into raw chaos magic. The butterflies that had been holding her flew off and merged with the giant butterfly, making it grow slightly. Mama always says that if the world isn't fair, then make it fair! Flutter Nice attached her limbs again, new ones grew in their place again, and their detachment constructs were back in action. The Reapers were stunned. Fluttergriff laughed heartily, Flutterbat hissed her laughter, Flutterdrake growled, and Flutter giggled. Melody groaned. Right, forgot we can't just beat the branches once and damage the trunk. Round 2! Fluttergriff cried, and the fighting began anew, the detachment's just a bit more reckless than before. Starlight went for the root of their problem. Her scythe and Flutter Nice's concept killer gave off sparks as they struck each other. You know, Discord rubbed it in Eclipse's face that one version of Fluttercruel had escaped her grasp. I guess he never knew you did, too. I'm not Fluttercruel, hissed Flutter Nice. I was born broken, but Mother healed me. It was the first thing she did when she became a nightmare. Right, sorry. So, what did it feel like when your mother lovingly destroyed your personality and reprograms you like a machine? Asked Starlight. Shut up! She only did it because she loves me! The detachments became less focused. You mean like how you mutilated however many innocent ponies because you loved your father? I said shut up! Mom makes me better! You mean she violated your soul like how Discord violated hers? Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up! Flutter Nice said, in tears. The detachments were now the ones on the defensives, as Starlight's two-pronged attack distracted their source. You know, if your mother trusted you to fully learn your chaos magic, I don't know if we'd stand a chance. True, you don't have the power boost that Fluttercruel had when your father chose to give her your grandfather's essence and his own power, rather than feed on her to heal himself. And you never underwent the right to become a true nature's fury, so you're like a big caterpillar that never became a butterfly. Not very natural for a mother who believes in nature. Ah! Flutter Nice screamed, snarled, hissed, growled, and whatever other sounds her animal parts could make. There wasn't a cathartic thing about it. This wasn't my Fluttercruel. She'd never been my Fluttercruel. And I wasn't Eclipse. I didn't enjoy seeing ponies in pain for the hell of it. Starlight was blocking her mad attacks more easily now. Mother protects me from my taint! My soul is tainted! My cutie mark is tainted! Discord's evil is inside me, but Mother makes sure it never wins! She taught me not to use that evil magic unless she says so! I never said your soul was tainted, dear, Whisper's voice spoke. But it was cruel and wrong for Rhoda Fortuna to give you such a horrible cutie mark. Cruel? Wrong? Starlight asked, as one of Flutter Nice's attacks hit her in the gut. Then one on her back sent her sailing towards the ground. She got back up, checking her wings for brakes as Flutter Nice continued her onslaught, crying and screaming. You know, my special talent is astronomy and navigation. It's a star that guides through the night, guiding students to a bright future, guiding friends to a peaceful way to settle problems. Fluttercruel, if your cutie mark is so evil, why isn't there blood on the blades? Huh? Flutter Nice froze like a statue. If your swords symbolize hurting others, why aren't they bloody? If it's evil, why is it shaped like a heart? Maybe you have a talent for weapon upkeep, or surgery, or scarification. Even consensual sadism is more likely than just being evil. Why on earth would Rhoda Fortuna give you an evil cutie mark? I remember the versions of Fluttershy's daughter across the world lines. Those who became elements of loyalty or kindness and fought to save the world from their father. Those who were adopted by Cadence and raised to be proper princesses. Those who Discord himself raised to be every bit as kind and warm as their mothers, at least until Eclipse taped over them. So many of them had that same cutie mark, but I never thought about it until now. A stage pyrotechnic who thinks her cutie mark is for arson, I whispered. We'd been treating it like a drug addiction. No wonder our treatments hadn't completely worked. The detachment stopped fighting back. Melody and Bright Eyes didn't waste a chance, and the four lights flew back into Flutter and Ice. Flutter and Ice's entire body was shaking. She looked like a confused and hurt little filly. Don't listen to her, dear. She's trying to trick you. Don't worry. Just listen to Mommy and everything will be just fine. Just don't listen. That's the key to resisting evil, after all. Just don't listen to any quibbling doublespeak or obfuscating sophistry, and evil can never affect you. Just believe in what Mommy's taught you, and their silly equivocations can't hurt you. Starlight grit her teeth in frustration. I get the feeling that went against everything her own cutie mark embodied. And you bad ponies brought this on yourselves, Whisper continued. Flutter and Ice, you have Mommy's permission to use the special paddle. Thank you, Mama. Flutter and Ice, no! Not listening is never the answer! Starlight shouted. Except Flutter and Ice wasn't listening anymore. Like a good daughter. I had to at least try, Starlight sighed, resigned. For Bright Eye's sake. Flutter and Ice tossed aside her rod and took out a paddle. Horse apples. Pretty please put them to sleep, Iron Will. Iron Will was a double-ended, double-edged buster sword made out of solid black iron, with each blade the width and length of a mortal pony. That's a concept-killing weapon, Red Eyes called out the obvious. But there shouldn't be enough left of TRX Chariot to make that, Melody gasped. Time loops, I growled. We had plenty of opportunity to harvest that chariot 1,000 times over. Iron Will's really good at keeping away pesky gods who want to burgle Auntie Twilight's house, and annoying angels who want to meddle with Papa's rehabilitation. One of Flutter and Ice's eyes twitched. She let out a Draconicus war cry and moved faster and more furiously than ever before, like she had been wearing heavy chains the whole time, swinging her weapon like it was made of hollow wood. She sang, Reaper, Reaper, that's what ponies call you. Why? 'Cause they all die. With this song I save their lives. You act like fighting us makes you all noble mares. Is that a fact? Well, you're all evil Philistines. Flutter and Ice moved at a speed barely visible to mortal eyes, trailed by magically animated after images as she flew from Reaper to Reaper. She knocked half of them away with the broadside of one blade while trying to corner Bright Eyes with the other, happily taking a slash from Starlight's scythe for a chance to skewer her. Every pony guard Bright Eyes, Starlight shouted. Nice must figure she's the easiest to knock off, Patch said. Flutter and Ice knew Bright Eyes was the only thing keeping the gateway open. I flew to help them, but turning my back on Nightmare Whisperer was a mistake. She grabbed me. I channeled enough lightning through her to knock the dragon unconscious. She didn't even flinch, huh? I tried electrocuting her motor nerves directly so she'd involuntarily let me go. Still nothing? That made no sense! We may be nightmares, but we still followed the laws of biology. I spun her weapon like it was a pair of fan blades, somehow blocking Melody's sonic attack with it. An after image of Flutter and Ice kept up the block, while the real one zipped around and attacked Melody, cleanly erasing a few locks of Bane from existence and nearly making Melody be born without a head. Ice splashed down with full force, only for Clover to catch the big thing in their hoof blades. Then Ice realized Clover wasn't even blocking, just holding the weapon in place. Starlight ordered Bright Eyes to stay back, as Ice was made to dodge several scythe splashes. Then she disconnected the hilt, using left blade to overpower Starlight on its own and swing Clover clear off her weapon. She reconnected the blades in a second, easily blocking another sonic attack. The girls were all being knocked away from the sheer force of Flutter and Ice's sword swings. Minty! She flew towards the fight. No, Pinky, don't abandon! A sea serpent burst its head out of the library roof and began to wrap around Mir, cutting off her concentration. The constructs must have burrowed through the basement. Razaru had to abandon the Scootaloo army in order to save Mir. I could already see the fog beginning to rise, the mortal pony's actions slowing as the fog began to pull them in. Razaru shot every element in the book at the sea serpent, but a murder of yellow crows flew in and used themselves as a blockade. Gran flew in about-face and slammed the giant mousetrap on the sea serpent's head, cracking it cleanly in two and allowing Mir to yank it off herself. She dropped an anvil down the hole for whoever else was down there and sealed it up. Applejack began using her mirrors again, and the fog was burned away again. Raz, I shouted, stop anything else from reaching Mir. But the Scoots will handle the Ponyville ponies. Razaru didn't argue. Alright, Rambodash. Back with Flutter and Ice, she was doing just great dodging Patch's frostfire until it became actual fire. She nearly got flambéed in surprise. But you said... Patch laughed. I lied. Turns out fire and ice magic are pretty similar when you get down to it. Starlight shook a few feathers out of her wings and they turned into Egyptian scythes that flew at Flutter and Ice. Patch took the distraction to slash another round of fire at Ice, scorching a patch on one leg and most of her tail. Clover was playing defense for Bright Eyes, and Melody backed up to draw in a breath. Welcome to the show. This is a number from a friend of mine. She opened her mouth and sang wordlessly, adding a high-pitched sound wave to the barrage of long-range attacks hitting Flutter and Ice. She'd had enough. All of you stop right now! And all around the black-winged mares, the illusion of floating, piercing eyes glared at them from every direction. They were paralyzed in an instant. This is different from how Fluttershy described the stare, Starlight squeaked. You forced me to use the evil version of Mom's power, you big dumb meanies! Met ponies with your power before. It isn't evil. Your ancestor Sir Squire never killed with it. He was a hero, Patch gasped out. You see, when ponies devote themselves to a good cause, believing in themselves, and never ever give up, they can overcome even death itself 5 times over. Unlike brain-dead stooges like you who blindly followed the orders of heartless, incompetent, lazy gods. Melody gripped her sword tighter and dove towards the ground. You once talk about blindly following, babe. We weren't ordered. We volunteered. But that wasn't... She had her eyes closed. But that's cheating. There's no way you could have... Melody stepped to the ground with her sword hard, creating a sea of sound waves like a radar. Her ears swiveled to Flutter Nice's location, and she managed a few slashes that didn't quite break Nice's focus. I already had my eyes closed while I was siren shouting at you. Just didn't bother opening them after. Flutter Nice growled and attacked back. Thankfully, swords the size of Flutter Nice's are big enough to make a lot of noise, and Melody was able to dodge with ease. The stare wavered, however slightly. Clover's entire body shook. She looked ready to rip her own muscles apart trying to move her body. Melody used her siren shout again, so high it made Flutter Nice's ears bleed. Flutter Nice swung and twirled her sword in a fury, creating a maze of slashes that would make Melody's birth if she tried the slightest wrong move. Melody hopped back then dove down, flipped around on her back, skidded along the ground, stabbed Flutter Nice through the leg, and unleashed her sword radar thing inside her. Flutter Nice screamed. The stare broke. "Flutter Nice!" screamed Whisper. "You monster!" My throat clenched as Flutter Nice grabbed Melody's ankle and broke it, clenched her other hoof in her dragon claws to keep it in place, and raised her sword to sever her in two. The others cried out and flew towards her, but they weren't going to make it in time. Something else did, though. A patch of something hit Flutter Nice's neck and burst into a cloud of green smoke, clouding her vision just enough for a black and white blur to fly in and buck her in the face. Flutter Nice's massive sword skittered to the ground. Sakura landed gracefully on 2 back hooves. "Forgive me for presuming who here has goodwill, but you, strange Fluttershy, are the one trying to kill." She helped up Melody. "My apologies for being late. I did not think I had a due date." Melody opened her eyes and looked at Sakura like she'd seen a ghost. A strange calm fell over everything. It was like the gears of reality had just been knocked out of place. I don't think any pony planned for her to show up. "Sweet mother of mercy, everything has gone to hersey. I knew something was strange, but this is all deranged. Into town, I came down. I came to check on ponies, but I can't tell this from macaroni." "Thank you, Miss Sakura," Melody breathed. "If I understand this plight, this Ponyville is completely trite?" "It's a bit more complicated than that." Sakura looked sideways at the Scootaloo army helping the Mortals escape. There were a lot more now, most of the ponies stuck in puppet shells and freed. "That I can plainly see. But you're here to set us free?" "Yes, I promise that's the case," Melody said. "We all promise," Starlight said, flying to Sakura's side. "We all came all this way to help you. You're all equine, and a lot of us are dear to us in ways you can't imagine." Starlight's hooves twitched like she wanted to hug Sakura. The other Reapers looked at Sakura with something like reverence. Geez, I'm missing a big part of the story, again, aren't I? Flutter Nice burst out of the wall she'd been thrown into, snarling. "Cheater!" She sounded like a clapped-off elementary schooler, and trust me, there was nothing more cruel than a fool. Starlight looked at the infuriated little demigoddess. "The rest of you, go help fight Nightmare Whisper. Sakura and I will take care of Flutter Nice." Clover gasped. "Starlight, you can't be serious! There's no way she can—" Starlight glared at her the way only a leader can. "She'll be enough." She looked at the witch doctor. "That is, if you want to. There is no time for debate. I will help carry your weight." Thankfully, Flutter Nice was just a bit too busy throwing her temper tantrum to interrupt Starlight and Sakura. The others flew towards where I was still trapped in Whisper's loving vice grip and started to help me out. "It's nice to be by your side again," Starlight whispered, eyes noticeably watery. "Again? What do you mean, my friend?" "In another life, you're my teacher." "Huh. Looks like Pinkie Pie isn't the only one getting a happy reunion today." "I see. Then let such be." Flutter Nice finally calmed down enough to look at the mare who'd sucker-bucked her. "Seriously? A mortal zebra? I'm half Draconicus, moron! I could tear you apart without breaking a sweat! Just go home already!" In a single swift motion, Sakura picked up a concept-killing rod from the debris around her, the one Flutter Nice had tossed aside before bringing out her favorite toy. None of us had noticed it, with Sakura's smoke still lingering. "Oh. You won't be wearing my fur. You fight like an amateur." "Sakura, that weapon, if you kill somebody with it, it'll be like they were never born." "Thanks for the warning before I give this a whack. I suppose I'll just have to hold back." Flutter Nice growled. "You arrogant little zebra! I'll squash you flat, then you'll know to be polite!" "Though you do not appear a child, your immaturity does not seem mild. To discipline such a brat, I promise not to hold back." "Sakura, don't you dare think you can discipline my foal!" Fluttershy's voice boomed. Sakura sighed. "For friendship, Fluttershy, I do not wish to say goodbye. But though she is your foal, know that she does not seem whole." "Less rhyming, more fighting!" Flutter Nice shouted, diving in for the first strike. You won't believe me when I tell ya, but Starlight and Sakura didn't fight together like a pair of strangers. In this place where souls remember, they fought alongside each other like old friends who've partnered together for hundreds of missions. Their fighting styles complemented each other perfectly. I think Melody's last attack damaged Flutter a lot more than she was willing to let on. She was definitely not at 100% anymore. Her after images were a lot more sluggish and clumsy as Zecora and Starlight began cutting them down. It wasn't long before she realized they were draining her more than it was worth. She flew upwards, right out of Zecora's reach. Too bad for you, you're the only one here who can't fly! Without missing a beat, Zecora leapt onto the blade of Starlight's scythe, and the magic of leverage sent her speeding upwards. Flutter sure didn't expect that. She cried out when Zecora grabbed her Batwing, using her body's momentum to dislocate it. You'll get no breather. Now you can't fly either. Flutter and Zecora crashed to the ground together, Zecora on top. She rolled off and grabbed her concept killer in one fluid motion. You are not quite mature. That is why I call you an amateur. Flutter responded with a horizontal slash of her sword. Zecora leapt and landed right on the flat top of the blade, jabbing Flutter in the torso with a rod. Your weapon is scary to the eyes, but its size is where its weakness lies. Nice twisted the blade, but Zecora managed to stay teetering on the edge. Then Nice swung it upwards, but Zecora backflipped, landed perfectly, and swept Nice's legs with a rod. Nice instinctively spread out her wings to balance herself, only to cry out in pain from a dislocated wing. Starlight used her perfectly functional wings to dive in and land a kick on Flutter back. She swung back up and swung her weapon like a fan. Starlight did the same with her scythe. Sparks flew where their two blades met. Starlight suddenly reversed her rotation, and the curved blade of her weapon caught Flutter Nice almost overpowered her, but Starlight smirked and shrunk her scythe back into a normal sword, sending Nice's sword crashing to the ground. Starlight dodged around Flutter and slashed into her side, earning a pained cry. A long-range weapon in such close quarters might not have been the best idea, Starlight admitted. Zecora leapt in and got a few good jabs in with her rod before Nice finally freed her sword from the ground. Zecora and Starlight flanked Nice, who disconnected her weapon and used the huge blades as twin shields. There was a pause, then they both leapt away at once, Zecora and Starlight's hooves as they soared above the grounded filly. Stop cheating! I didn't mean to falsely claim victory. I'll give an apology to the referee. Ha! Nice burn, Zecora! Nice growled and detached Fluttergriff, who flew straight at them, completely unarmed. Oh no you don't! Starlight shouted. Zecora introduced her hoof to Fluttergriff's beak, cracking it. Starlight's sword became a scythe again, and she swung it at the griffin, dissolving it once more into chaos magic and sending its light back to Flutter Nice. Nice was visibly winded after that. Probably didn't have much left in her reserves. You might not be having this problem if you hadn't cut out your element of chaos. It was evil! An element only ever reflects its bearer. Another murder of yellow crows crowded around Starlight and Zecora, forcing them back to the ground. Let it never be said that Whisper didn't help her daughter when it counted. Nice, withdraw right now! You're going to get hurt! No, I'm going to win! I won't give up! Not now, not ever! I'm going to kick their flanks! There's no way I'm gonna lose! Young Philly, I'm telling you, believe in me, Mom, like I believe in you! She moved like a freight train towards the pair. I am done with you! Same here, kid, Starlight shouted. Flutter flung herself upwards, the two disconnected swords slashing in a whirlwind, determined to erase my friends. Zecora blocked with her rod, but the impact sent her flying. Nice slashed with both swords together and broke Starlight's scythe in two. Starlight took a step back in surprise and stumbled on a little yellow mole that popped up below her. She whirled out of the way of the next slash, and stopped herself just in time to avoid the other sword. Just like a Pegasus to keep harassing Mom! She looked ready to rip Starlight's throat out with her teeth. I'm not a Pegasus! Starlight propelled herself off the ground and landed a solid kick to Flutter Nice's stomach. I'm an Earth Pony of the Age of Wonders! She brought her right foreleg to rest against the side of one of Flutter Nice's swords for a second, then lifted it up and brought the sword with her, the blade sticking to her leg like she was gripping it and tearing right out of Flutter Nice's unsuspecting hooves. I'd sparred with Applejack enough times to recognize what happened next. Starlight channeled her Earth Pony magic into the blade, leaping up and attacking in one fluid motion. Flutter Nice counterattacked on instinct, bringing one concept killer to meet the other, and the force of two equal blows shattered both blades into nothing. Flutter Nice looked on in bewilderment as the pieces of her sword scattered. Like in slow motion, the two's eyes met, Starlight's eyes now burning with the same killer instinct as her foe. Flutter Nice screamed in panic and tried balancing herself on her back to Chrono style to kangaroo kick Starlight. Zecora caught her friend, and, in a fluid motion, let her slide onto the ground, caught Flutter Nice by the tail with the rod, and slammed Flutter Nice face first into the ground. It barely took a second for Flutter Nice to recover, fangs and claws all bared. Zecora yanked back her staff just in time for the Nice to slam into it, clinging to it in an attempt to pull it out of Zecora's grip. She held on but didn't resist the pull, instead using Flutter Nice's grip as leverage for a kick to the stomach, then wrenched the rod out of her slackened grip. Snarling, Flutter Nice swung at Zecora with every limb in her body, slashing with her claws and kicking with her hooves, her teeth bared all the while. Zecora moved with precision, stabbing Flutter Nice with the end of her rod repeatedly but never twice in the same place, never with enough force to cause damage. Yet she always gave herself enough space to dodge Nice's claws without needing to block. It was like watching a dance. Flutter Nice thrust her griffin claw up to Zecora's eyes, clearly intending to claw them out, right as Zecora made a final jab to the side of her neck. She froze, locked in place. Her eyes widened. What kind of magic? Zecora swung her rod upright and looked at Flutter Nice scornfully.
That's always my itch. I'm not a witch. Your pressure and magic points I stabbed. You'll find your ability to move quite drab. Sakura poked her once more on the back of the neck, and Flornice's entire body went limp. Now please, stay, Philly. You are now as weak as a lily. Nice's dragon leg glowed for a second as if to detach itself again, but fizzled out. She was completely helpless. Starlight shook her head and went to pick up the severed chunk of her scythe. Transforming it back into a sword while holding the pieces together left her with a perfectly intact blade, just with a thin discoloration along the fault line. Sakura, Starlight started. Yes, dear child? You would look better if you smiled, Sakura told her with a small smile of her own. It was an honor to fight alongside you. I'm sorry I couldn't meet you properly outside of this mess. You're a wonderful pony, or zebra, no matter your name or face. Oh, there's so much I never said. There's so much I never got a chance to say. I was never there for you, but you've always been there for me. I took a moment to imagine Starlight being born into Sakura's zebra tribe, complete with the mohawk, and snorted. Sakura put a hoof on Starlight's shoulder. Do not fixate on what you could have had. It will only drive you mad. You are here now. That I can avow. Starlight teared up and hugged her. Thank you! Sakura levelingly patted her on the back. Forgive me if things are not as they seem, but I do believe I've seen you in a dream. Sakura reached behind herself to fling some smelly powder in a Timberwolf construct's face, driving it away. Yeah, maybe. Starlight slashed her sword behind her to take care of a bear construct. I believe I was a teacher once, long ago. Many students I did so. In it, you were a pupil dear, who learning did now fear. You wished to teach, that I could see. And to see that, I was proud as I could be. Was this just a dream that did not last, or a memory of a lifelong past? I'd normally have something to say about mid-combat hug time, but they were taking care of each other pretty well. I still kept an eye out just in case Shy found some way to get her daughter back in action. That's one way to put it. Then, Starlight, do not fear. I am proud of you, my dear. Starlight's shoulders shook. But if for something you feel regret, then please do not fret. For whatever failure you perceive, I forgive you. I'm not peeved. They held each other tighter. Good for them, I guess. We'd better get her to the portal, Starlight said, finally looking up from Sakura's shoulder. Demi-concept or not, she might not be safe here if this place collapses. She glanced sideways and finally noticed the ring of snarling constructs formed around them. Hissing in surprise, Sakura instantly moved to stand back to back. You hurt my daughter! She was trying to kill us, Starlight shouted. She was only trying to help you! You both need to learn some manners! Sakura shook her head. Another blind eye from a parent, turned from their foes' problems apparent. The construct army charged them from every direction. Starlight and Sakura weren't exactly in great shape after their fight with Flutternice, but I had every confidence they'd make it. And no Fluttershy. She wasn't a killer even as a full nightmare. She wouldn't be one now. Meanwhile, remember me, all tied up and everything? Yeah, I'd freed myself around the time Sakura broke Nice's wing. The whole world doesn't stop for one bratty filly, you know? The puppet of Mr. Cake pulled Scootaloo number 30,001 inside itself with its strings, only to get punched apart from the inside. Another Scoot punched through a puppet's side and let loose a shock from her element of loyalty. Yeah, if you had elements, what do you expect? We went through a lot of world lines. It'd be more surprising if none of them did. Oh, being a bear is a tough job? Yeah, no shit. And of course it sucks that having an element somewhere means being a nightmare somewhere else. But only the truly heartless can escape that responsibility in every world line. To have a heart is to have a connection with Fauna Luster, however small. Somewhere in the distance, the Scootaloos guarding Applebloom and Sweetie Belle were flying them to the portal at top speed, despite their protests. But Scoots, I want to help! I don't care what she's saying, she's my sister! Applebloom shouted. I'm not leaving without Rarity, Sweetie Belle squirmed. Appleblom, I'm sorry, but you can't help. There's tons of ways you can help your sis, but galloping into a super pony battlefield isn't one of them. You'll just get yourself hurt, then get Applejack hurt trying to help you, her Scootaloo pleaded. But you're getting help, lots of ya are! Yeah, 'cause we've got experience fighting immortal super ponies. Don't ask how, my memory's fuzzy. But I've got the instincts to know how to fight and how to help ponies. And right now those ponies are you girls. But what makes ya and the other yas so different? Maybe I just need to remember some fancy fat and stuff from a past life. Maybe the look in Scootaloo's eyes. I've seen it in Granny Smith and my own grandparents, in my friends. The look of some pony who has lived too long, carried too much, lost too many. No, Applebloom, not here, not like this. I know enough to know that whatever you've forgotten is better off that way. Cross my heart, hope to fly. Aren't you gonna say something? Sweetie Belle asked the Scootaloo who was carrying her. Her Scootaloo shrugged. There's not much I can say, except that I know this is what Rarity would have wanted for you. Then let me go! I can't. You're all I have left. What the heck does that mean? I just want to keep you safe because you're my friend and I care about you. That's all you need to know right now. But Rarity, we're saving every pony here, Sweetie Belle. If Rudy's here, then she's coming with us, and she'd want you safe! Alright. Sweetie Belle finally relented. Sometimes super senses suck. Apple Bloom, Sweetie Belle, part of me would have liked to explain this personally, but good fillies like you should stay away from nightmares. You gotta know when to fold 'em. Know when your loved ones are gone. Know enough to sense when you're in over your head, and when to bail out instead of going down with the ship. Know when things are beyond your control. Know when it's time to let go. Know how to embrace a new life, a new path, new friends. Life's too short, even as an immortal. Sometimes it's healthier to forget. You can be loyal without piling chains on yourself. What, you want to hear more about the other side plots going on around the battlefield? Damn, way to take the spotlight away from me. Not that I was really focusing it on myself in the first place. Well, since you insist. Just outside the portal were a pair of winged earth pony mares. One was a little chubby, with a yellow coat and a curly purple mane. Her key mark was a piece of wrapped candy, and she held a journal and pen in her magnet hooves. The other was a pristine white with a pink mane and a heart key mark. She was holding the shield I saw on the door earlier, and oddly she had a halo. Huh, Apple Bloom was the only other pony I'd seen with one. Lyra and Bonbon were the first to come through the portal door. The moment they stepped through, the blood from their injuries was wiped away. Bonbon did a double take at the yellow mare, tilting her head in confusion. Lyra glanced between them curiously. What are your names? The yellow mare asked. The words came unbidden. My name is Bonbon Sweetie Drops. My name is Lyra Heartstrings. The yellow mare scribbled their names on a page in her journal. Bonbon Sweetie Drops, Lyra Heartstrings, you exist. And nothingness had no claim. The white mare took her halo and ran it gently over Lyra's injuries, healing them on the spot, then tapped the space over their hearts with her hoof. Bonbon Sweetie Drops, Lyra Heartstrings, you are alive. And death had no claim. My name is Bonbon too, by the way, the yellow mare grinned. It's nice to finally meet you. Are you me from the distant future? I'm your great ancestor. Wow. Were you a great warrior or healer or something? Nah, just a model and a baker. I'm friends with some pretty great ponies, though. Bonbon, we should probably keep the line moving, the white mare said, Fluttershy-like. Oh, sorry, sweetheart. You two, there's a waiting area just behind me. Next were the tattered puppets of Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon, broken enough to show the green and orange coats of the ponies within. Sweetheart started removing the biggest chunks of shell, while Bonbon asked her question. What are your names, kids? Snips Puppeteer. Snails Mage. Snips Puppeteer, Snails Mage, you exist. Thank you, Snips whimpered. Don't worry, no pony is going to hurt you now, Sweetheart said, pulling out the last fabric leg and healing the bruises underneath. Next was Nurse Redheart. After Bonbon wrote her name down, she looked to Sweetheart. Are you some sort of divine entity using Saint Sweetheart's form to calm me down so I don't go catatonic over your true form? Or an alien? Nope, Sweetheart giggled. I'm the real deal, and I'm so proud of you, Nurse Redheart, and all you've done. Redheart fainted. Whoops. Bonbon and Lyra took notice and helped move Redheart to the waiting area as the line moved forward. The next mare was a pink Pegasus with cardboard wings. What's her name? Cupcakes? Gently, carefully, Sweetheart tugged the wings free from Cupcake's body, revealing the scar tissue underneath. Oh, wait! It's okay. You're going to be okay now, Cupcakes. You are alive. In between blinks, Cupcakes had her wings back. There was no small amount of joy, or crying. Do I get to keep them this time? Are they finally real? Yes, they're as real as the ones you were born with. Sweetheart had to admit the next few ponies with the pink Pegasus wrapped around her, sobbing gratefully. It was worth it.